All right, and right now the public is let in and we are able to start and call the meeting to order.
All right, good morning. This is the City Schools Liaison Committee meeting, February 17th, 2022. As we'll be picking a chair today, I staff will call the meeting to order at 8:32 a.m. Could the clerk call the roll, please?
Yes, of course. Mayor Burt,
Here.
Board President Dauber,
Here.
Board Vice President DiBrienza.
Here.
Councilmember Filseth.
Here.
You're present.
Thank you. The first item of business is oral communications, please.
All right, if any members of the public would like to speak on an item that is not on today's agenda, please raise your hand in the Zoom app or press *9. And I see one raised hand. I see a couple, several actually. Our first speaker is Abby Domain. Abby, you'll have 3 minutes for public comment. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. I am joining to ask the city and school board to discuss and try to improve the process for signing up for middle school athletic teams. I understand that this is a partnership between the two organizations, and the current process, for those who don't know, feels very inequitable to parents who don't have the flexibility to log in to sign up at a certain time and be available to sit there and hit reload on the Enjoy webpage like they're trying to buy U2 concert tickets. So I think that there must be a better way that we could partner together. I'm not suggesting that we go back to the old paper system. I think that was also unwieldy. But I think that there are lots of ways to do some kind of an open sign up that would last for a week and then run a lottery for the teams and inform parents whose kids have received a spot. I represent a group of parents, many of us who got spots for our kids on the teams that we wanted. And so we're not coming at this from a place of my kid didn't get it, but from a place of it sure doesn't seem fair to parents who don't have access to open schedules, to credit available for that kind of a transaction and the multi-hundreds of dollars kind of on the spur of the moment. So we'd love to see how parents and the two organizations can work together to improve it.
All right, thank you, Ms. Abby. Our next speaker is Audrey Gold. Audrey, if you could please unmute yourself, you'll have 3 minutes for public comment.
Hi, this is Audrey Gold. I wanted to ask about the status of the Churchill Enhanced Bikeway project. I just checked the city website on that project and it says it's supposed to be going out to bid. But the last time I had checked in with Palo Alto School District staff and representatives, they said the school district is still waiting on receiving an easement agreement from the city. So I am curious what is happening on that, why it is taking so long to get that easement agreement going. This project has been in the works for more than 10 years. So I'd appreciate an update. And secondly, I just wanted to agree with Abby's comments completely. My children are now in high school. I think after the middle school athletic program is absolutely wonderful. It's a fabulous program, but I've always felt like the sign up system seems a little bit arbitrary based on, so I agree it would be better if it was just done on a lottery system. It would be just, I think it just would be more fair overall. And again, thank you for providing that program. It's wonderful. So I appreciate both of these. The Churchill Enhanced Bikeway project, I think it's going to be wonderful. I would just like to see it moving. And if it's not moving, why is the web page, can we get that web page updated? And if there's anything I can do as an advocate for safer cycling, I'd be happy to do it. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. And that was our final public speaker.
Thank you. I just realized that item 3 is the selection of the chair, but if it's okay with everyone, I'd like to move that up so that we can have you guys run your own meeting as lovely as I know you can. So each year, this committee chooses their chairperson, and it alternates between the city and the district. And last year, the city had the chairperson of this committee. So this year, it is an opportunity for a member of the district to be the chairperson of the committee. So with that, I will open it up for nominations for the chairperson.
I'll nominate Jennifer DeBrienza as chair of the committee.
I'll second that.
Any other nominations? All right, I love easy votes. Okay. All in favor of Ms. Oh, any discussion on this motion? Okay, great.
Oh, and do we need to open it
Members
up
of
to the public? Yeah.
Yes, thank you, former Chair Burt. Would any members of the public like to speak on this item? I do a mental countdown.
And I'm confirming that we have no public speakers for this item.
Thank you so much, clerk. Okay, with that and no discussion, we'll take a vote on this motion. Could the clerk please call the vote?
Yes, of course. Mayor Burt,
Yes.
Board President Dauber,
Yes.
Board Vice President DeBrienza,
Yes.
Councilmember Filseth,
Yes.
and this nomination passed unanimously.
Thank you. Take it over, Chair DeBrienza.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, colleagues. I think that now we're going to jump back to number 2, right? Or now the new number 3, approval of minutes from December 16th. And I believe that only Mayor Burt and I were a part of that meeting. So I'm not sure exactly how this works. Either the two of us can vote to approve it, or I don't know if we need a majority in some way.
You do still need a majority. We have this each year as well. So if there is comfort with voting today, then the committee can do that. Or if you would like to give the new members time to read the minutes and then move this item to next month, you can do that as well.
Mayor Burt, can you join me in assuring our other 2 members that it is an accurate reflection of the meeting?
Yeah, I'd be fine with that if they're good with that. Otherwise,
I don't know if you guys have the need to go watch the meeting or something. Yes, okay.
No, I'll take your word for it.
Okay, then let's, do we have to vote on it, or can we just, by unanimous consent here, it is approved, yes?
I think that's it. Some boards do it that way, and that is more expeditious. I'm good with that every month.
I'm good with that. Is everyone okay with that if we just approve it that way, unless there's any?
Sure.
Okay, great.
And just check for public speakers, sorry.
Any
Yes.
public-
Oh, yes. I could call it Chair DeBrienza, or if you would like to call the public, whatever is preferable to you.
Is there any public comment for this?
Yes, if anyone would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand in the Zoom app or press *9. And I see no public comment.
Okay, great. So we will move on to our updates. I'm not sure, Ms. Chow, if you'd like to start, or if you want Mr. Shikata to start, since Dr. Austin isn't here. Either way.
Mr. Shikata can start, that'd be fine.
Happy to. Well, good morning, everyone. Let's see, just a couple of things that I thought might be of note to the committee. First, just in terms of city operations, that as board members may be aware, our city council returned to a hybrid format this week for the first time post the Omicron surge. And we will be doing the same now with our boards, committees, and commissions beginning March. So up until this point, it's been entirely remote throughout most of the pandemic. And as such, the transition back to this hybrid format is actually a pretty significant change, as I think folks have gotten used to the Zoom format. So as you may be aware, our various commissions are handled by different staff. So staff have all, I believe, now received training from our city clerk's office. City clerk will be actually providing support through this remainder of the pandemic phase while we're doing vaccination checks and the like for members of the public that attend in person. So that's a change that we'll see over the next few weeks. Just in terms of some projects that our staff are working together on, I would just note for everyone's awareness that I believe we're working very well together on issues related to the Cumberly campus from our perspective, Palo Verde and Hoover work from your perspective, and it relates to Cumberly. Notably, and I know we'll talk about this under the city council discussions, but just from an operations perspective, that various departments have been working with PAUSD staff on logistics of the campus moves, including notably the value of our ongoing Charleston Arrastradero project, installing a new traffic signal at Charleston and Lewis Montrose. So our staff has been working to ensure that the traffic signal is operational in time for the school commuters that will now be going to the Cumberly campus next school year. Also, just want to note that one of the public speakers referenced the Churchill's bike improvements, Churchill Avenue bike improvements. Just checked in with our staff and know that one of the areas of focus related to the easement that's needed along Churchill Avenue has been the development of a memorandum of understanding that really spells out the responsibilities for both the city and the school district into the future. So certainly involving the easement itself, but construction, costs associated with construction, any unanticipated or mitigation that's needed, certainly as it relates to trees and the like. So that's all being finalized. And I believe, heard this before, but very close to being final, and will be presented to both school district and city council very shortly. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Chow.
So I don't have a whole lot new to add. I did want to say that as far as the Cumberly site, we are working really well with city staff on a couple of items. We have our ongoing COVID testing, which is open out there Monday through Friday. That continues to be a great resource for the community. We've also worked with city staff in regards to conversations about the restroom out by the field, and those conversations have been moving along rather productively. Our plan as it relates to the Hoover and Palo Verde move is also moving along. We plan to move portable classrooms over the April break. So that is will be happening pretty quickly, because April, believe it or not, is really just right around the corner. We've done a lot of outreach to our community, our families at Palo Verde in terms of options for getting to school. And we've surveyed parents through the PTA. We've also done a lot of work in terms of strategically trying to think out how can we bus some of those families, possibly from the farthest corner up there by Embarcadero and 101 and that furthest quadrant out, to possibly provide buses. Maybe they would do a pickup at Ohlone School and then bring students over to the Greendale campus from there. So that is a work in progress. As you know, bus drivers are one of the segments of our staff that are in high demand and short supply. So we are looking to reconfigure some existing routes, looking at capacity where we might have existing routes that might have capacity so they can pick up students. And even if it's only 30 or 40 students, that is a big help. Right now, we're looking at a couple scenarios that might provide for 110 students to ride the bus over from either an Ohlone or Palo Verde pickup spot to the Greendale campus. So that's that is a significant improvement. And the community's been really receptive to, finding potentials for carpools, whether they're rolling carpools, cycling carpools or car carpools, in order to get students from one site to the other. Staff has also been, district staff as well as city staff have been working together on a couple of agreements, including the Churchill easement and also the renewal of the lease for our use of the courts, our joint use of the courts in the field. So making a lot of progress in both of those, and happy to say that the communication is going very well with the various teams that we've been working with. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, on to the review of the recent city council and PUSD board meetings. Would the city like to go first on that?
I'd be glad to take a crack at it. We've had a few things going on, not the least of it, which has been celebrations of Lunar New Year. So Xinyan Kuala. And then on a lesser note, we've had two big events, a sighting of a turtle dove and a bald eagle in the community. So everybody's been excited about those things. And then on more substantive matters, the council had its annual retreat, and we focused on setting 4 priorities, quite similar to last year's priorities, but they're economic recovery and transition. And the transition part is the new element, recognition that as we recover and come out of the pandemic impacts, things won't be quite the same. The pattern of work and hybrid work in office, we expect will continue to have a significant impact on how many people are working in the community in the coming years, and impacts on retail. We also recognize just the overall transition in the retail environment is going to impact the vitality of our downtowns and the occupancy of retail space and the revenues from it. And so we're really looking at how to embrace and adjust to those transitions. And then as a city, the economic transition of our recovery of revenue streams, which has had a very big impact on the services that we provide, from public safety to libraries to shuttle buses and everything in between. We're continuing to not see the full recovery of our previous revenue streams, in particular our hotel taxes, but others as well. And we're looking at a very important prospective business tax that's coming fall. The second priority is climate protection and impacts. And this one that we actually have a student representative as one of our advisory board members. And with upcoming events, we really welcome collaboration with student climate groups. And so anything that the district can do to help us hook up together. We've had in our subcommittee on climate impacts over 100 attendees to subcommittee meetings. So it's really showing a lot of community commitment. And the electrification program is a very complex matter that has not been done before, and a bunch of cities are just struggling with how to implement that. Our third priority is social housing for social and economic balance, with the focus on what are the elements of that housing that really need different forms of incentives and subsidies on middle and lower income housing. We do have projects that are going forward right now. We've committed to a Life Moves transitional housing project, including for families, and awaiting grant funding from the state. And we committed operational funds as needed from the city. We have certainly the teacher housing project at the courthouse site in collaboration with the district. We have upcoming a an affordable housing site on Charleston, including for disabled adults. The city made a commitment and is pursuing requests for proposal or information on housing, and with an emphasis on affordable housing on pilot scale on a surface parking lot in the downtown. And then the business tax would potentially be able to increase our limited funding for our share, local share of affordable housing. And we have another project that we expect to large, very low income affordable housing project, including families, that should be getting proposed in the next just few weeks. And then I just also want to mention, as a follow-up on the Coverly, the council last Monday had a discussion on the future of the Coverly site, in addition to the nearer term uses of the site for temporary schools. And the city has, and the council members, who some of whom who had strongly hoped otherwise, have come to recognize that the district's priorities and their ability to see their needs in the future don't align with some of the wishes that went into a concept of a collaborative development agreement. But we're interested in now having the discussion on the next phase, and very appreciative of the district's openness to possible land swaps that might be able to increase the acreage that the city holds of that site. And I have a letter that is going over to the school board through President Dauber, inviting a joint meeting of the council and the school board. We haven't had one for several years, and to discuss not only that issue, but other areas of common interest as we try to both serve the needs of youth and families in our community. And another small announcement is that you may have seen that we, in addition to our sister city movement overseas, we have become the first city in the country, in collaboration with Bloomington, Indiana, to launch a sibling cities program of domestic cities and different regions of the country to try to build greater unity and understanding. And everyone is really excited about that. Bloomington's a great city. We also are moving forward with our rail discussions on grade separation, and look forward to participation by the district on impacts that could have very significant impacts on the district on bike and pedestrian access to schools, on bus access, and a whole bunch of things. And then lastly, on the middle school athletics, I think this is another item that we should be looking at. The city has been managing that program in collaboration with the district, but a number of years ago, we not only had court cases, but changes to the state constitution that appear to clarify that these programs really should be administered as an equal access educational program that would be provided by school districts, and rather than the city. And this is something I think is overdue for us to discuss and come up with solutions that assure that we have that access for all. So that's my updates. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Filseth. Do you have anything to add to that? Okay, I'll take a stab at the city, and then Mr. Dauber, let me know if you have anything to add. Thank you. I would say that the three main things that the district has prioritized at this point and are talking about fairly nonstop are literacy, wellness, and equity. Literacy, we've got a big initiative that I think we've mentioned here before, Every Child a Reader initiative, which is really focused on lots of different supports in the elementary school to make sure that every child is reading at benchmark by third grade. And everything from professional development to supplemental materials to time to work on it, keeping track student by student, lots of meetings. And it appears to be making an impact, but we're looking forward to seeing at the end of the year what it did. And at the same time, we're in the middle of going through a curriculum adoption process for reading and having our committee of teachers pick a new curriculum. On wellness, obviously coming out of the pandemic, there's even an increased mental health needs and needs for connection in our community. And at the same time, just like bus drivers are hard to come by, counselors and therapists are hard to find enough of. Every district is finding that problem. So we're trying to reimagine our mental health services and think about how we can structure it to provide for all that our students and staff need. And the third one is equity across many lines, but really a lot of focus on anti-racism and microaggressions and doing both staff and student training on that work, in the hopes that we've had a lot of students come and speak at our board meetings about their experiences in our district. And so hoping that it both helps the district be a more welcoming place where students have access to their education, and that it also in turn improves outcomes, academic outcomes for students who perhaps struggle because it's somewhat of a hostile learning environment for some of them at times. So those are our three big foci. I'm sure there'll be more coming up very soon. Okay, I'm sorry, I had an animal behind me doing something. We've got a busy spring coming where we're starting to really look at our budgeting for next year. Ms. Chow is busy with the staff, working from our budget assumptions into detailed budgeting. And just wanted to make a note, you could probably knew from my email that I was watching the Monday night city council meeting. And I think that, Mr. Dauber, correct me if I'm speaking out of turn here, but I think that the board members might have different opinions really on the development of Coverly, but when push came to shove, our biggest limiting factor is that unless we plan to use that site for a school, we cannot go out for a bond to fund anything there. So I think really what it comes down to, where the last time the board talked about it, was we don't have very many options to move forward. I love that master plan, but we don't need it as a school anytime soon. So if you all would like to go out for a bond, I think that the city and the district can talk about what options are. But it sounded like without us willing to put a lot of money or a bond out for it, that there was nothing else we could do together. I wasn't on the ad hoc committee. In fact, I don't think that Mr. Dauber was either. I think it was Shaunak and Todd. But I think our biggest limiting factor is that we can't go out for a bond. So I don't really, our hands are tied right now in what we can do. So I was just surprised that I didn't hear that, because that really what it came down to, regardless of what board members think or what our priorities are, there aren't a whole lot of options for us without the need to use it as a school. So I just didn't hear that at the Monday night meeting. And I wanted to clarify that, some of us might have tremendous interest in that, but there aren't a whole lot of options for us. So Mr. Dauber, I don't know if you have anything to add or clarify there.
Well, in terms of the sort of actions of the school board recently, I would just add the discussion that we had at our last meeting about issuing additional bonds for construction under Measure Z. We discussed an additional $240 million of bond issuance for a number of projects under Measure Z, and you can take a look at our agenda. Ms. Chow is intimately familiar with, what our plans are there. So that's a lot of construction coming. The total for Measure Z was $460 million, and this is the second bond issuance under that approval from the voters. And I think we also are discussing authorizing the last $40 million or so. Ms. Chow can correct me if I'm wrong, under Measure A. I think one thing to highlight, which Mr. Brianza did as well, is we are also discussing, the board is also discussing budget assumptions for the next year's budget. And what I heard from board members was a real interest in ensuring that our mental health services to students are sufficient. We've been really challenged with having availability of counselors from our third-party providers. So I think staff is considering a different kind of service model that they'll be bringing to the board as part of our budgeting process. So I think that's been a persistent priority for the school district as well as for the city. So I'm sure you'll be pleased to hear that that is a commitment that I think is really strong. In terms of Coverly, yeah, I mean, I agree with Mr. Brienza's comments. We last discussed this, if I remember correctly, in 2019 as maybe as part of the lease renewal discussion. There was a joint memo, I think, prepared by the city manager and the superintendent that kind of recognized the realities. One important one was the impossibility of issuing school bonds for non-school purposes, non-educational purposes. And so I think that's been a well understood feature of our landscape for a long time. So I don't think that has changed recently, but it was certainly, I think, thoroughly discussed, what is that, 2.5 years ago. And I think everybody understands that reality. That's it.
Okay, I see there's a public comment from Ken Horowitz. If we can take that one, and then we can see if there's any more to discuss amongst ourselves here.
And Ken Horowitz, oh, I shared my screen as well. Excuse me. If you could please unmute yourself, you'll have 3 minutes for public comment.
Yes, thank you. Ken Horowitz, been a Palo Alto resident for over 40 years and have been a Foothill College professor for over 45 years. And I've been interested in the Coverly project because I wanted to be able to teach in a facility there that was modern and up to date. And so I've been following this discussion since 2006, 2007, when Foothill was interested in purchasing the 8 acres from the city. I also want to say that the 4 of you are some of my favorite officials, elected officials, and I really value your thoughtfulness whenever a project comes before either the board or the council. So I think you have a great committee here. I have been reviewing the documents going back to 2008, 2010. Mayor Burt was actually the mayor at the time in 2010. And I found some very interesting documents, and I'm going to be sharing those over the next few meetings of the council as well as the Board of Education. But 2 that kind of struck out to me was number 1, from 1989 to 2010, the city of Palo Alto paid the school board $113 million in rent. And then if you add the rentals since 2010, probably the figure now is maybe close to $200 million. So that's an interesting amount of dollars that has been spent on a project that's at this point is gone nowhere. The second interesting point was that when the school board decided they didn't want to give up the land for a school, they projected back in 2010 that the enrollment in 2022, which is today, would be 15,575, which was the enrollment back in 67, 68. So those projections were way, way off. I'm really hopeful that the council will move forward, go it alone, and we will come up with a first-class community center. And this process that's been dragged on with a lot of people involved, a lot of money spent, will end. Thank you for your time. Have a great meeting, and I appreciate you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Horowitz. Any other comments? Doesn't look like it. All right. I don't know if any City council members or board members have anything to add to our operations or anything about that Coverly topic? Okay, great. So I think the only thing we have left is planning our future meetings and agendas. Is it okay with everyone if we keep our meetings on Thursday mornings at 8:30? Good. Okay, great. So topics. I know that Mayor Burt mentioned the middle school athletics. Other issues that I believe the Coverly Ad Hoc Committee is no longer. Is that correct? That was
I
just
didn't, yeah, I didn't, well, I didn't appoint members to it because it seemed to me that it would be better to consolidate any conversations here.
I thought same. I imagine over the course of the year, we'll be discussing Coverly at times. So that's something that, you know, not necessarily anything in particular right now, but that'll probably be on our radar. And I was going to say the Churchill easement, but it sounds like Mr. Shikata that should be coming to us relatively soon. So we'll be looking out for that.
And can I just comment on the middle school athletics? I think Mayor Burt is right that there's an outstanding issue there that should be considered. I think it's probably better to have it considered first at the staff level, because amongst ourselves we'll have opinions that may or may not be useful. But I think there is a genuine issue there that, you know, that Mayor Burt sort of stated well, and I think we need to take it on. But I think it should be handled at the staff level so we can get some clarity and see if there's agreement at that point.
Okay, so we're requesting staff to start that conversation so that you guys can bring us a proposal or agreement, or at least your thoughts on it. And I know, you know, every year we get updates from Safe Routes to Schools and from Project Safety Net and all of our usual suspects. So I'm sure we'll see those along the way. I don't have anything else. Does anyone else have anything right now?
Just along those lines of what you talked about, the challenges that you're facing with both the need to address student mental health coming out of the pandemic. One of the things that I've come to think more about is when we talk about PTSD, it's really about post-trauma stress. And we're now in this period emerging from the traumatic period, and we are so tempted to think that everything just returns to normal, especially for kids who lost much of the 2 important years of their lives. And I had neglected to mention that our 4th priority is community health and safety. And within that, health was really a recognition of this issue. And maybe we can have the agenda have an item in the near future on collaborations on that. Project Safety Net is probably our most common vehicle, but not the only one, where we can find that we have collaborations and synergy and can work together to try and address the issues.
Okay.
And just follow up of things kind of carried over from last year. There was an interest, I know you mentioned Project Safety Net as well, but an interest of some specific things to follow up on for that. So we can just talk about what's the best way to package all of the mental health items mentioned. So just throwing that out there, that's a connection point. That was a follow-up. And the other one is the collaborations ad hoc last year. Had been having some conversations. That was Mayor Burt and board member
Darrell.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so that was something that was not finished last year, and I'm just mentioning that to the committee. That was it.
Okay. Okay, great. I think that's it for today. Yes. Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks.